Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start this meeting by recognizing the homeland of the 30 First Nation communities of this area we now call the Fraser Valley Regional District, where we live, work, and learn. Important decisions that we make at a local government level can affect First Nation communities and Indigenous peoples and organizations in many different ways, both today and in the future. So, as part of our collective responsibility, I commit that we continually examine the work we do to ensure that our projects, plans, initiatives, and discussion are guided by the principles of inclusion, collaboration, and reconciliation. So, with that in mind, I would like to call to order the December 7th meeting of the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting. The first item on our agenda this afternoon is the election of chair. So to facilitate this election, I would like to ask for a first call of nominations for chair of the Electoral Area Services Committee. Director Adamo?
Nominate that Mr. Director Dickey, remain in his position.
Thank you, Director Adamo. Director Dickey, do you accept this nomination?
Be happy to do that. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? For a second time, are there any other nominations for the position of chair for the Electoral Area Services Committee? And for a third and final time, are there any other nominations for the position of chair of the Electoral Area Services Committee? Hearing none, I now close the nominations and declare that there will not be an election and confirm that Director Dickey is elected chair of the Electoral Area Services Committee. So at this time, I would ask that Director Dickey take the position of chair and chair the rest of the meeting. And I would also like to ask the chair to direct staff to facilitate the election of the vice chair. Thank you, Chair Dickey. So I will now call for nominations for the position of vice chair for the Electoral Area Services Committee.
Davidson, nominating Director Dixon.
Thank you, Director Davidson. Director Dixon, do you accept this nomination?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? For a second time, are there any other nominations for the position of vice chair for the Electoral Area Services Committee? For a third and final time, are there any other nominations for the position of vice chair of the Electoral Area Services Committee? Hearing none, I now close the nominations and declare that there will not be an election and confirm that Director Dixon is elected vice chair of the Electoral Area Services Committee. So Chair Dickey, you now have an opportunity to provide your remarks as chair of the Electoral Area Services Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman, and thank you everyone for your continuing support. Not totally convinced it's deserved, but we've got lots of exciting projects coming our way this year, and I look around this table and see a lot of talent, which gives me a lot of comfort. So thank you, and we have many interesting possibilities looking at us right now, and I think lots of excitement is guaranteed. So moving forward, Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you. So looking for approval of the agenda and late items.
Move Director Castle, second Director Makahonic. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
And moving to item 7, which is a resolution to close the meeting.
Motion, move Director Castle, second Director Dixon. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
Okay, and if you could just give us So on item 8, Chair Dickey, just reconvening the open meeting. So then we would move to item 10, which is the chair's report on Regional and Corporate Services Committee.
Fit with a program here. Yeah. Okay, this morning at the RACS committee meeting, we have talked about the homeless count and survey. Director Ross had a question regarding Indigenous veterans housing, whether that was needed. Mr. Van Wyck responded that he'd be happy to look into that. Ms. Stewart, in response to a question from Director Horn, pointed out that the response to homeless is commonly and perhaps better addressed at the municipal level rather than the regional district. Director Makahonic pointed out that there was increased awareness and work being carried out to address homeless in the Chilliwack River Valley. And the only other item that there was any discussion that revolved around was the emergency 911. Director Horn questioned regarding the property, idea of bringing in a property tax in funding 911. Staff indicated this would be addressed during the budget process. Is that right? And Director Dixon asked for an update to the cell phone contribution to 911, which will be available in the future. I believe that was the limit of the discussion this morning, Rex.
Sure, yes, there was a motion at the Regional and Corporate Services table for staff to send a letter requesting an update on where the province was at in terms of finding an alternative to the call-outs or levy. So that motion will go to the board next week, and staff will issue that letter, and we'll see what kind of a response that we get.
So this is regarding the cell phone charge?
The cell phone levy, yes.
Yep, thank you. Good.
Yep. So now we would move down to item 11.1, which is a presentation by our Manager of Communications, Sam Piper, on the Have Your Say website.
Ms. Piper, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to showcase our Have Your Say website. As said, I'm Samantha Piper. I'm the Manager of Communications. And in today's presentation, I'm going to walk through the website and try to correlate what you're seeing on the screen and how it could relate if there was EA Director pages. But first, I'm just going to touch on a little bit of history. So there's, why we have the site and how far we've come. The FERD officially launched Have Your Say back in the summer of 21 as a way to maintain public engagement activities while we were in the midst of the pandemic and the face-to-face restrictions that we were all facing when we tried to maintain our public engagement activities. Many other local governments utilize the same website provider or something very similar for their public engagement practices. And in BC, 14 other regional districts use the same website provider as we do. So today, there remains multiple benefits to having an online engagement site, and some of those benefits include convenient engagement. So people with extremely busy schedules or different schedules that may not necessarily be able to attend our public face-to-face open houses can attend at their convenience online and provide their comments or their feedback as it relates to a project to their interest. It's also an inclusive and safe environment in order to provide comments. If some of the tools are utilized in a project, the comments are monitored by the provider 24/7, just to ensure that people are using respectful language and behavior on the site. When public participation is important or an essential factor in a project or an initiative, online engagement website augments face-to-face engagement, such as our open houses that we do quite often. And overall, it becomes a resource because many of these projects have documents or other materials that can be viewed even after the project retires from a current project state. So I'm going to jump in to be respectful of your time. You've already had a long day, but I'm just going to meander through our live site. Here you can see, I'm just going to scan up a little bit. Up on the top left is our logo and the name of the site, which is Have Your Say. As you scan across is the home button, which this is our home button. So if you were ever navigating through, you could tab this and it'll bring you back forward. We also have a link to the FERD.ca website, a search button, which I'm sure we're all very aware of how to use. Sign in if you were a registered participant. You can sign up here as well, down here in our banner. Now, I'm just going to pause there for a second to explain. In order to visit the site, you can come 3 ways. You can be a registered participant and complete our sign up form, which is very simple. It's just your name. You come up with a creative username, which would be displayed if you were using any of the tools throughout the site, your email address, as well as your postal code. You can also visit the site as a project follower, or also known as a subscriber. And that goes when you're inside of a project and you choose just to receive information about that particular project. You enter in your email address, and newsletters, which provide updates on that particular project, would go directly to your inbox. Registered participants have that option as well. One of the benefits of being a registered participant is you would have access to all the tools in all of the projects, and not have any gates or restrictions with that. The third option is just to be a visitor, pop in, and depending on any gates or restrictions placed on the tools, you may be able to participate in a survey, but you certainly can navigate the site and see what's there. So I'm going to try not make anybody car sick and just scan through. This is the area where our current projects are listed. These are the active projects. I'm just going to pop into one. We'll pick the regional growth strategy here. Takes a second for it to pop open. Up top here is what we call the banner, and we can customize that so it relates directly back to the project at hand. We have the title here. We always mention a little bit about what the project is, just to introduce the readers to the site. As you can see, there's the capability of having photos or graphics, as well as links inside and outside of the website platform. Over here on the right, under Who's Listening, this whole panel all the way down are widgets. So if this was a director's page, this is where your name would be, your photo, your title, your emails. We could also include any social media platforms that you participate in as well for any visitors that would come to your site. Timelines. Some of these items on the right-hand side we are able to customize those. So even though it says timeline, we could change the name of that. If there's important activities happening in your community, we could list them that way. Just showcasing a little bit more about the links. You'll note here in this grade area, there's different tabs up top. And these are the different tools that are available. Of course, this isn't displaying them all. A few that come to mind that would work well with a director's page would be if there was a survey needed. We could do quick polls, which is a question with a couple different answers if there was something that you needed to know about your community. There's also discussion forums. There's different styles of those where there is talk back and forth between residents, and of course you would be notified of those through your email. Or this one that's being displayed, even though it is closed on this particular project because of the timeline, people can go in and basically tell their story or post something of interest. I'll just take a little tour back down here. The related documents, this is where the document library could live. If there's calendars or important information required for your community, this is where it could live. So I'm just going to scan up and take us back to the main portion of the website here. So this area here, past projects, these projects have done their work. They've completed their job and now they're living as archived documents. Again, going back to the resources, this is a good example. The financial plan, this is all the work that was done in last year's budget that I know that you are up to your eyeballs in currently. If somebody did choose to go back and view documents from last year, here they're all listed. So that is the same with any of the other projects. Down in Learn More, it's exactly that. These three topics here take readers from Have Your Say back to the FERD's website. So encouraging sign up for Alertable, speaking about our map as well as our development map as well. And down at the bottom here, just talking about the toggling between our main website and our engagement website. There is a dedicated page on ferd.ca that speaks about Have Your Say. So this is just, if I were to click on it, we'd go back to ferd.ca. So that's just a really quick overview of what the site is and what it could be if considered for your page. So I'm happy to take any questions. I know that was super quick, so.
Great, thank you, Ms. Piper. Trying to make ourselves a little more relevant in the brave new world. Any discussion from directors? Director Adam?
Yeah, thanks very much for your presentation. So, did I hear that right? That it becomes a live process so that we're pinged automatically or something like that if somebody starts talking about something in, say, specifically area B?
Yes, through the chair to Director Adamo. Depending on the tool that's utilized, there would be a notification going back to who's listening. So they could, depending on the tool used, yes, you'd be notified. Also, people visiting your site could contact through your socials or through your web or your email address.
And then on top of that, so if I have special events happening in my area, I'd be the one to add them in to the system. Or
Staff
would it be monitored through your department?
Staff would assist with that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Good, thank you, Director Adamo, Director Dixon, and then Wardenberg.
Thank you for the update and I appreciate the tour. I've been on there lots of times and every email or communication I'm sending out, I'm using go to Have Your Say, go to Have Your Say, go to Have Your Say. Just to clarify, kind of think this is it. In one of those things that Have Your Story, I think it was somebody was talking about, you know, their experience. If it's directed to me, will that come to my email or will I be having to check Have Your Say along with Facebook? Yeah.
It depends on the tool, sorry, through the chair to Director Dixon. It depends on the tool that's being utilized.
Okay.
And so there would be discussion up front. So if you were having a discussion forum, that communication you would be, if there's a question asked, especially if we were using Q&As, that would come back. You would be pinged and we would assist with posting your answer on the site.
Okay, I guess where I'm going with that is just to make sure, because sometimes people do stuff on Facebook and they send me a private message and I miss it for days on end because I don't check it all that often, right? So I wouldn't want that to be happening on the official page. And the other thing is I am registered in the rest of it, but I'm not getting notifications. So it's my understanding, like when with the engineering, when they put up a bulletin about the Cultus Lake wastewater treatment, that should I be getting that in my email? Because I'm not. And I had somebody else comment on that as well, one of the other people that are registered. So
Yeah.
just an awareness maybe.
Sure, through you to,
Okay.
through the chair to you. When we do produce newsletters as the administrators, we can choose who to send it off to. So we try to encourage registered participants to also sign up through their email with a particular project. By including your email, that would stimulate the newsletter. some project managers just want those participants that have signed up through the newsletter to receive the newsletters instead of sending it to all the registered
Right.
individuals, because when you're registered, you're registering for the entire site. So you may only have an interest in the budget, and where others would have an interest in the active transportation.
Okay, no, I understand that, sorry, but just is there a way to check? Because it feels like I have signed up for the liquid waste, or sorry, this is not back on that. I have signed up for the updates for the bulletins that come once a month from the Cultus North Cultus,
And you're not
and
receiving them.
and it's not coming into my email,
Sure.
and that's what somebody else had told me as well. So I'm just not sure if it's a small glitch. But
Yep,
anyway, thank
no
you for your
problem.
work on this. I think it's a great plan.
Awesome, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Dixon, Director Wardenberg.
Yeah, just for clarity, through the chair, so you're planning on setting up an individual, like a director's page, like, as a tab, like the budget, like, area projects, so it'll be just a director's page, is that?
Yet the concept is, and depends which direction we do receive. But the concept is that each electoral area director would have their own project page. That's just the terminology used, but it would be your own page that would live and breathe as your community needs fluctuate and interests come and different events ebb and flow. Staff would be happy to assist you with that information. The key point in the report that's on the agenda is, of course, that lockdown time during election time. So we would basically retire the site or the page during that time to ensure there's no public consumption of it. And then after election and swearing in ceremonies, and it's safe to do so, it would be resurrected again.
Okay, another point, so if somebody was on a question and answer, how is it monitored, through you, for the opinions that may be left on there, good or bad? And if there are opinions, there that were left, were unfavorable or illegal, how quickly would they be removed? How would they be removed? What would be the protocols?
Through the chair to Director Wardenberg, that is part of the capability of the provider. Staff at FERD are not doing the monitoring, but the provider of the site does that. They have staff worldwide, so they can cover a 24/7 clock. We don't see those comments that have been moderated. That's handled through the provider. So that is, they've got a very lengthy and comprehensive list of type of language or behavior that is occurring online that is unacceptable. Of course, there is still room if somebody is not happy and they politely express their displeasure, that would still show up. But it's just providing a safe environment. So I'm not using defamatory type of language.
So, great, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Wardenberg, Director Davidson, and then Makahona.
So I'm just trying to understand the level of autonomy we EA directors would have within this page. And if I understand correctly, project page is referring to the product functionality, but as you say, it could be whatever we want it to be. For example, if we wanted a survey just basically to solicit people's opinion on fireworks enforcement, is that something that a EA director could reasonably put together themselves, or does it sort of require staff to be there as the administrator? And I guess the other question I have too, just for clarity, if the EA director has any ability to author any content, can the system basically push that content out automatically to people who are registered to see that page? I'm just thinking in this day and age, you really must have a push of information and not rely on people to visit the page. So I'm just wondering if you could comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Davidson. For your first question, I think that's the strength of the policy that the ask of the report will include is that structure of what could be included, what could not be included. So right now, I guess that's to be determined. To answer your second, if this is the direction directors wish to proceed, communications initially would assist with promoting through social media that there's live pages. As your network and subscribers grow within that project page, there is the opportunity to push information out through the newsletter function. And of course, through if you're utilizing your own social media, you could use the link back to your page. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Just trying to think about how it would work with what I'm already doing, but yeah, it's helpful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Davidson. Director McElhannock.
Yes, one of my questions was about moderating and if you have harassment or anything that's caught, so that's good. But so I do a newsletter to the residents and have quite a few people on my list, and I know when I put it out, and I really appreciate your help with everything that I do, so I really do appreciate that. But what says right on the newsletter, this is not the opinion or something like that of the Fraser Valley Regional District. So if I had in my newsletter move on to there, would it be another disclaimer that this is, even though it's on the Fraser Valley Regional District, I could still kind of do my newsletter but it would still have that disclaimer?
Yes, through the chair to Director McElhannock. Yes, for sure, we would still need that structure and to protect yourself and the organization as a whole. So that would come out through the policy development.
Okay, so I could still kind of figure out my own topics and
Yes,
things like that.
certainly.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
No, just thank you very much for you've been just really helpful since I started, so really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Director McElhannock, and thank you, Ms. Piper. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Director Castle, I missed you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'd just like to move the motion.
Well, let's hear the motion. I apologize for missing.
The motion that's on the agenda, I'd like to move that motion.
That would be a good idea. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Second, Director Dixon. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, contrary motion carries. Thank you for pointing that out, Director Castle. Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you, Chair Dickey. So 12.1 are the draft Electoral Area Services Committee meeting minutes of November 9th, 2023.
For a motion, move Director Damo, second Director Wardenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, contrary motion carries.
13.1 is the Financial Plan 2023 to 2027 amendment for December.
Have a motion before us. Move Director Castle. Second Director Dixon. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, contrary motion carried.
13.2 is a 2023 grant and aid request for the Hemlock Valley Homeowner Association in Electoral Area C.
Motion, Director Wardenberg, second Director Adamos. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, contrary motion carries.
13.3 is a 2023 grant and aid request for the Chilliwack River Valley Firefighters Society in Electoral Area E.
Move Director McElhannock, second Director Castle. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor, contrary motion carries.
13.4 is the 2023 grant and aid request for the Chilliwack Better River Cleanup Society, Chilliwack River Valley Cleanup Fund, Electoral Area E.
Move Director McElhannock, second Director Dixon. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor, contrary motion carries.
13.5 is a 2023 grant and aid request for the Chilliwack River Valley Residents Association from the Chilliwack River Valley Cleanup Fund in Electoral Area E.
Motion, Director McElhannock, second Director Castle. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor, contrary. Pardon me? Yeah. All in favor, contrary, motion carries.
And 13.6 is a 2023 grant and aid request for the McConnell Creek Farmers Institute Hall in Electoral Area F.
Motion, Director
Davidson move.
Davidson, thank you. Looking the wrong direction again. Second, Director Wardenberg, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, contrary, motion carries.
13.7 is a 2023 grant and aid request for the Hatzick Watershed Restoration Society in Electoral Area G.
So moved.
Move Director Castle, second Director Wardenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, contrary, motion carries.
14.1 is the regulation of the sale and or discharge of fireworks. It's an information item, and happy to answer any questions.
Good. You, Director Castle.
I would like to move options 1 and 2 for area G, and I invite other directors to add their areas if they so choose.
Good, thank you. Maybe for the benefit of the rest of us, motions 1 or options 1 and 2 regard.
Option 1 is the Fireworks Act. Options 2 is the new bylaw to prohibit sale of fireworks.
Okay. Good, thank you. A seconder? Did we have a seconder or? Thank you, Director Adamo. Discussion.
Just point of order. So we're discussing option 1 right now. This is the Fireworks Act.
It's
for
option
clar-
1 and option 2, Director Davidson.
Or
It's
we
both
can
of them together.
Okay. Director
move to
Castle.
separate.
We have a motion to separate. Okay. So would we look for a friendly amendment on something like that? Perhaps.
So what we would do is Director Davidson has moved to separate, so we would need a seconder in order to take a vote on separating those two options, and then option 1 and option 2 voting separately.
Seconder.
Well, I would just like to clarify that I've moved option 1 and 2 for area G. And I've invited other directors to add their area to that motion.
Good. Thank
And-
you, Director Castle. So
We had a
we put
seconder
that-
on the original motion from Director Adamo. I
Right.
would just suggest, Chair Dickey, we don't necessarily need to take a vote yet on separating the items. Perhaps you entertain the discussion first and then take that vote.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Davidson to separate. We don't have a seconder, I think. Do we have a seconder?
Sorry,
And
what are we doing?
So Director Davidson. made
So
a
I have suggested, Chair Dickey, that it wouldn't really be appropriate to make a motion at this point in time to separate the voting when you haven't even had a debate on the item yet. So there's been a mover and a seconder on the motion for option 1 and option 2 for electoral area G only. Perhaps the committee would like to discuss the item first. Perhaps some of the other areas would want to add themselves to the motion. And then I would recommend that you entertain Director Davidson's motion to separate the voting.
Thank you. So it is Director Castle's motion, so we'll let Director Castle speak.
Thank you, Chair Dickey. First of all, I'd just like to thank staff for delivering this report. This is a report I've been anticipating for quite some time. Just a little background for the other directors. During the election campaign last September and October, a ban on fireworks was something that was brought forward to me by a number of residents of Area G, particularly those with horses, as the fireworks very much disrupt horse operations, as well as those residents whose properties are interfacing with the forests, who were concerned about the potential for forest fires to start. The reason that I am wanting to move forward with both option 1 and option 2 for area G, first of all, option 1, of course, is the Fireworks Act, which gives the RCMP an ability to enforce Section 3, which prohibits the sale and discharge of fireworks outside of the October 24 and November 1st window. I feel this is a valuable benefit to the residents who are looking for someone to call. And I feel that giving residents an option to call the RCMP when they feel that they are in imminent danger due to fireworks is a useful tool. And with regards to option 2, which is the new bylaw to prohibit the sale of fireworks, I was pleasantly surprised to see that our old friends at DARD had put in place a bylaw. And basically, we're just resurrecting that bylaw to enable ticketing for the sale of fireworks outside of the time period in option 1. Further to the situation in Area G, of course, we were elected right after the election, or right after the election was Halloween. I had a number of residents in Area G calling me, actually also residents from some of the neighboring areas calling me with concerns. LaCamel First Nation, as soon as we were elected, Director Wardenberg and I were both asked to appear at a LaCamel First Nation Council meeting where they expressed their desire to see the FERD ban fireworks in all forms within the electoral areas. LaCamel First Nation actually has a law on their lands that fireworks are not allowed. So if this passes for Area G, it would mean that the sale of fireworks would be prohibited throughout the entirety of Area G. And I feel very strongly that with the requests and feedback that I've had from residents, that this is a worthwhile exercise for Area G.
Thank you, Director Castle. I see Director Davidson. Go ahead.
Right. So this one's a bit more complicated, and I do have some questions. And part of the reasons why I wanted to separate right away, because I really do think it would work easier if we address these motions separately. But we do have a motion right now, so I've already made a motion to separate, so I'll speak to these things. I certainly support first part of motion for area F. Although I do note that there is a bylaw in place right now, and I do have a question through to staff. As we do have a bylaw right now, if somebody called the FERD and complained about fireworks in areas C, F, or G, what would the staff response be today?
I think we'll have Mr. Daniluz answer these questions.
Thank you. Through the chair. Or the staff opinion is that we would be unable to enforce that 1976 bylaw because the provisions are out of date and the mechanisms for enforcement are onerous and prohibitive, and we're unsure whether they're even applicable under the current provincial legislative scheme today.
So on that note, one of the things, and this is where I'm kind of confused, because the language I think that was quoted in the staff report referred to that regional districts have the ability to restrict sale and I think said disposal of fireworks. So the term disposal to me was a little bit ambiguous. I didn't see anything about us being able to prohibit discharge of fireworks, which to me is the more important of the two. Are we in fact able to prohibit discharge of fireworks?
Again, through the chair. Yeah, yes, we believe we are. There are a number of regional districts that have adopted similar bylaws, and we believe that the disposal of fireworks includes the discharge of fireworks, which amounts to their disposal.
But the current bylaw doesn't speak, but you're saying the current bylaw, you have doubts about its validity?
The provisions of the bylaw make it, I think, not possible for us to enforce. It requires a summary judgment in front of a magistrate, and I'm not sure where to find a magistrate. And the idea of bringing somebody that we catch setting off fireworks in front of a magistrate in order to enforce $100 fine, feel like would cost us a great deal, and we're not sure how to do it. And frankly, don't believe the province is set up that with that. I think that's very old, outdated language. And so our conclusion is that we would be entirely ineffective under that bylaw. And if the board has an interest in regulating the sale or the discharge of fireworks, that we should consider a new modern bylaw.
Okay, so I'm kind of looking for, I guess, parliamentary assistance on this one. Where I'm at is I'd like area F added to option 1. I'm not in favor of option 2 because frankly, I don't believe that the sale of fireworks is the problem. And while the camel, we can't regulate what the camel or any other First Nations reserve chooses to do. While a camel may be against it, there may be other locations in the electoral areas that we cannot regulate that may decide they wish to sell them anyway. So I don't believe the solution lies in restricting sales. I think it relies in restricting and enforcing a discharge. So that's why I'm not keen on option 2 and on option 3. I do want to see option 3 move forward. I look at the $40,000 cost. If you split that out to 6,500 homes, that's basically $6 or $7 per average home per year for that to make that happen. And noting the staff comment on likelihood of successful outcomes being low, in my mind, I liken this to a little bit like speeding enforcement, is that if you didn't do it at all, things would be a lot worse than if you do what you do today, knowing that you don't catch every speeder. So that's kind of where I'm at overall, and this is why I'm struggling with having motion 1 and motion 2, option 1 and 2 voted together. And if staff can help unpack that one into something that can move forward in a reasonable way, I'd be eternally grateful.
Okay, thank you, Director Davidson. This is going to get complicated.
Well, Chair Dickey, I think what we'll do is staff have noted that Director Davidson would like to ultimately separate the options and would like to add area F to option 1. So I would recommend just continuing to let the committee weigh in on this conversation. And then when we get to that point, he can make that motion, provided there's a seconder, and then that the separation would include an amendment to add whichever areas want to add on as needed.
I'm getting the sense though that each electoral area is going to have their own menu that they would like to draw on here. It's going to get complicated, but anyways, we will move forward. So right now the motion is only for area G and combining options 1 and 2. Director Wardenberg.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, just under the Fireworks Act on the staff report, it says, and this is relating to option 1, it says person shall not give set off fireworks, however, with the written permission of the fire commissioner. So my concern, well, for area C is a couple things. Is area C is very distinct, 3 different areas. I would support this for the Lake Yarrock and the Lacoma First Nation area. Unfortunately, the Sandpiper and Harrison Mills area tend to have a couple displays, and Hemlock Valley has a couple displays as well. So I think for story, I think area C will be out of it at this point, unless I can separate my area into 3 different geographical areas. And I see somebody shaking their head, so I think area C will be out of this at this point in time. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Director Wardenberg. Director Dixon.
I'll weigh in here. I'm not interested in this for area H, either for any of these. And so my question, of course, comes back to all that good old budget question. If this moves forward, that option with whichever areas want to be included, is that who's paying? Does it come out of the service area for those areas? How does that work?
Through the chair to Director Dixon, this is would be an EA-wide cost. Whoever participates in bylaw enforcement would be paying the $3,500. Now, that's not to say that there aren't many bylaws on record that apply in some areas and not others. So I think that there are certainly instances, I believe, I can look to Graham for confirmation on that, but this would be coming out of the same service area. So all of the residents participating in that service area would pay the $3,500.
So would that be the same if option 3 actually went forward, that the $40,000 cost would be paid for all of us, whether we're banning fireworks or not?
Through the chair to Director Dixon, yes, that would be how it would work. It would have to work. There isn't a separate bylaw service area that is specific to this particular bylaw. It's just bylaw enforcement. But I do believe that there are other bylaws that we have that have nuances and differences between the electoral areas. It's not ideal. I think that staff would always recommend, wherever possible, we like to have consistency across the electoral areas because it's very challenging for residents, particularly who live very close to the boundary of an electoral area as to what the rules are. I mean, that when you ask the bylaw enforcement staff to go out and enforce, when there's nuances between jurisdictions that are quite close to each other, it can get pretty challenging, but not insurmountable. But when it comes to the funding mechanism, whoever is paying into bylaw enforcement will be paying this amount. And I'll just look to Graham or Kelly if they want to weigh in, or if I've incorrectly characterized that. Okay.
It's 40,000. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Okay, Director McElhaney.
I think Area E will opt out of this. I think with the, when we have fire bans and that, then that just automatically becomes nobody can do that anyway. So I think we're covered there. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McElhaney. Director Adam.
Yeah, in further review of this and in going through all of my separate areas, while we don't have any cattle except for in Laidlaw, they also have their own event twice a year where they discharge, and it's unfortunate, I'm certain, for anybody, especially myself who has a dog, but we've never had the issue, and the fire ban as put on by the fire commissioner will take care of all of that, all of those concerns at that period. It won't take care of the concerns of wild stock and residential pets. However, I think that in my area alone, I know that for sure we have enough community-minded people that have taken care of that to take care of it within their own jurisdictions. So I think I would have to opt out as well on behalf of the constituents that I've contacted.
Okay. So it sounds like there are a number of opting out areas here. I see Director Castle has his light on.
Thank you, Chair Nikki. Yeah, I just wanted to address back to Director Davison why I didn't include option 3 in my motion. The City of Mission has bylaws restricting the sale and the discharge of fireworks. And while the sale of fireworks prohibition has been successful, they have just asked, Mission Council has just asked their staff to come back with a report to outline how they might be able to effectively enforce the discharge bylaw. I think that enforcing the discharge as outlined in the report is very difficult. And when looking at the cost implications versus the likelihood of successful outcomes, I just didn't feel that it was value for money spent. And so that's why I chose not to include it in the motion for Area G. And just a little clarification, the 3,500 is with regards to a program to prohibit the sale of the annual education and awareness communications to advise the public of the prohibition. So it's a communications cost, not necessarily a bylaw enforcement cost. Given what I'm hearing, I would be happy to separate these out if we want to go through each one individually. But I'm definitely looking for support from the committee to ensure that option 1 and 2 are in effect for area G.
Good. Thank you, Director Castle. So maybe if I could just get a sense from the directors, how many people want to opt out of all 3 options? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we have a motion before us for options 1 and 2 for area G. Is there any further discussion on that issue, Director Dixon?
Quickly, and I recognize it's 3,500. So my challenge with voting for this to be okay with area G is that area H is paying for it. Like, and that's yeah, a little bit where I'm struggling. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Director Dixon. So, there's an understanding of what we're talking about, it seems, on the motion, all those.
Okay, just 1 second, Director Dickey. So there was going to be a separation of the items. And so I think that our corporate officer had suggested that you need to take a vote on that. But Director Davidson was going to make a motion to separate option 1 and option 2. So
Okay.
you'd need a seconder for that. Just assuming that Director Davidson still wanted to proceed with that.
Okay, Director Davidson.
You're
I think you're
muted.
muted, Director Davidson.
Sorry yet again. I think it does make sense to separate because I think motion 1 is presumably a lower cost than motion 2. And motion 1 might get support from the committee that motion 2 might not. So yes, I would like to move to separate.
And I'll
Okay.
second that.
Second, Director Castle. Any discussion? Director Castle's latest. Okay. On the motion to separate, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries. On the main motion, which is
No, it would be option 1, which would be to become a designated area under the Fireworks Act for areas
Right.
F and G.
Thank you. Okay, on the motion to go through with option 1, is there a mover? Move Director
So moved.
Castle, second.
But we've already got a mover and a
Okay.
seconder. You just have to call the question on option 1
For F and G.
for F and G.
All those in favor, is that what you're asking for?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that what I see? Motion fails. Isn't that right? It's even,
No.
even?
There's only 7 of,
Oh, you're right. There's only 7 here today. Good. Thank you. Motion passes.
so
Sorry, just for the record, is Director Adamo, Director Dixon, and Director Dickey in opposition then? Of motion 1?
I didn't vote, so that would put me in favor, I think. Yeah. Contrary. Yeah. So okay, the motion in favor was Director Castle, Warden, McElhonick. Okay, that passes.
there were no opposed. Just because this for the minutes, we record
Okay,
who opposed.
Contrary. 0.
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
So now we're on to a motion, secondary motion.
So no, option 2, because it was already moved and seconded. So option 2, which is a bylaw to prohibit the sale of fireworks for area G.
Okay. Okay, so that is the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Do I see 3? It appears out of 7.
They have to call who's opposed.
Yeah, all those contrary. 1, 2, 3. So 3 to 3 is a failure, right?
Well, you would be the deciding vote, Chair.
I would motion contrary also.
Okay, so that the motion fails.
And that is where it ends. Unless I hear another motion.
I won't I won't proceed with a motion on option 3. So I think we're done.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so moving to item 14.2, which is policy public hearings in the electoral areas. There is a motion for your consideration.
So moved.
Move Director Castle, second Director Dixon, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, contrary to motion carries.
14.3 is parcel frontage waiver for a 3-lot subdivision at 41523 Common Island Trunk Road in electoral area G.
So moved.
Move Director Castle, second Director Wardenberg, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, contrary to motion carries.
14.4 is a development variance permit 2022-05 to permit an oversized storage shed at lot 203, 1436 Frost Road in electoral area H.
Motion, Director Dixon.
I'll move the staff recommendation to refuse.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, Director McElhonick. Any discussion? Director Dixon?
Just appreciate the, actually the recommendation, but also just the follow-up and just to sort out how we can, move forward with future, development variance permits. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Dixon. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor. Contrary motion carries.
14.5 is development variance permit 2023-06 to increase the maximum size for an accessory building at 52701 Park Rose Wind in electoral area D.
Move Director Dixon, second Director Adamo, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor. Contrary motion carries.
And 15.1.1 Emergency and Disaster Management Act and regulatory consultation. There is a motion for your consideration.
Okay, motion, Director Castle has his light on.
I'll move the recommendation.
May
I-
get a second.
Yep.
Seconder, Director Wardenberg, discussion.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for this report and for the heads up on what's coming. While we don't, there's a lot of unknowns. I believe that we're on top of knowing what we don't know, and I appreciate that. I am wondering though if there's any benefit to adding to the CC list, that we CC the letter to our local MLAs and perhaps the other regional districts.
Absolutely, through the chair to Director Castle, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Castle. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor. Contrary, the motion carries.
And 16.1, which is recommendation for appointments to the Electoral Area Advocacy Standing Committee for UBCM meeting requests.
Okay, a discussion around this. I've had a number of people indicate that they'd be interested in sitting on this committee, so maybe if anyone that would like to add their name to that list, I'd be happy to hear from you. Director Castle,
I'd like to let my name stand for this committee.
thank you.
Davidson too.
Davidson, Dixon, Director McElhonick. Good. We're looking for 4 names. We've got 4 names, so we'll talk to Director Johnson and see how that works. Good.
Thank you. So moving down to item 19, which is reports by electoral area directors.
Director Castle.
Thank you, Chair Dickey. The Hatchick Watershed Stewardship Team continues to meet on a semi-weekly basis. We're close to a completed terms of reference, and I look forward to working with the team on identifying projects to move forward with in the new year. After years of negotiation, on November 10th, Lacamel First Nation, the Canadian government announced the $75 million settlement on the Clackawas Colonial Reserve Reduction Specific Claim. The federal government is providing funding to Lacamel First Nation as recompense for allotting lands and reducing them without compensation. I'd like to congratulate the leadership of Lacamo First Nation for their work on behalf of their people and appreciate the work of the federal government as we all work forward toward truth and reconciliation. I attended a public meeting at the DeRoche Hall hosted by the FVRD with regards to the active transportation planning for the electoral areas. This public meeting provided residents of areas C, G, and F an opportunity to have their say with regards to active transportation in our areas. While active transportation has been described to me in this context as the ability for residents to move within their neighborhoods without relying on their vehicles, much of the discussion that evening was around the desire of residents from outside of Area G who would like to see the dikes on Nakoman Island open for recreation activities like walking and cycling. I made many attempts to explain the issue of private property rights throughout the Nakoman Island Dike network and have encouraged residents of the area to ensure their voices are heard with regards to the use of dikes on Nakoman Island. And finally, I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of an Area G resident who was also a long-term volunteer with the FERD's ESS program. Anne Andrusoff passed away in October, and I'd like to extend my sympathy to Anne's family and friends and thank them for sharing Anne with the FERD in her volunteer capacity. Beyond that, I know I'll see you next week, but Merry Christmas, everybody.
Good. Thank you, Director Castle, Director McElhonick.
So I've been working with a group of residents, since I started and so have staff, that have been impacted, by the flood atmospheric, river situation. They still do not have resolution and it's, becoming quite frustrating and, we're still working away on it, but, it's been very difficult for them. And now with the rains again, I know some of them are really struggling. Good news, we have our second fire smart neighborhood. So we have Post Creek and now we have Slessy. And we're going to start working towards Bell Acres next. So I want to thank Andrew and actually Randy McElhonick, who did a lot of the work on this to make that happen. So thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director McElhonick. Director Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly lots going on in my area. On Sundays, Cultus Lake Community Church is celebrating their 75th anniversary. And so they're having a service at 10 o'clock. And I've been asked to speak at that and say a few words, but also follow up with goodies and donuts and things like that. So congratulations. It's just really great to have things happening again in that area. Christmas at Cultus on November 24th. While I didn't attend because I was away, it was certainly what I've heard is just really an amazing event. The Cultus Lake Events Committee is doing a lot of great work for those that live in Cultus Lake, but also just for the entire area and guests as well. Had a really good meeting with Cultus Lake Park Board Chair and CAO the other day, along with our chairs, Jennifer Kinnaman. And just to keep connecting what's going on in our areas and how we can continue to support each other. So happy to report that that's really going well and a great relationship. Blue Creek is an area in Columbia Valley that is prone to flooding. It has flooded again this past week. It's also under repair from the DFA flood, but this is a little bit of a heads up. There is a community group working hard on trying to get some action from BC to Washington with the logging that's going on up there, the clear cut logging. The fear is that all that debris will come down into the Blue Creek watershed and the Frost Creek watershed. So I'll be bringing forward on at the board meeting next week, just hopefully just to send a letter to see how that can change for the better. And those of you looking for something to do on December 16th, Columbia Valley is having their Christmas with chili and Santa and maybe a hayride 5 to 7:30. So, yeah, thanks for that. That's it for me. Merry Christmas to everybody. Absolutely. Have a great holiday.
Great. Thank you, Director Dixon. That Cultus Lake is a happening place.
Busy
Yes. Yeah. Director Wardble.
Thank you. Yeah, I was happy to join Director Castle at a very important Truth and Reconciliation ceremony for the Como First Nation. We were very honored to be there, and yeah, it was a great moment of the changes that are happening within the Fraser Valley Regional District with our First Nations and the federal input and all the other things that went on there. It was great to watch. It was great to witness. Um, I was happy to join Director Davidson and Castle with the active transportation meeting, which had a very large contingent of Area C people voicing their opinions, as they always do. And just wanted to mention that the eagles are back in Harrison Mills, the largest population of migratory bald eagles in the world. Yeah, if you can get on by there, it's a beautiful sight this time of year. And also a shout out to Sasquatch Mountain. There's scheduled tentatively to open tomorrow, Sasquatch Mountain Ski Hill. I don't think they will, but keep an eye on their schedule. It's snowing heavily there, and look forward to the mountain opening very soon. And that's all I got. Thank you.
My, look at the excitement. Wow. Thank you, Director Ordenberg. Director Adamo.
Thanks very much. We had a very successful Christmas market that was hosted by the Yale ratepayers in conjunction with the Yale Museum organization in Yale last weekend. Very tremendously successful. Had a lot of fun there. This weekend brings the Sunshine Valley Volunteer Fire Department's Breakfast with Santa from 9 to 10:30. Holiday Trail Resort has decorated wonderfully, as they've been known to do so. They were the past recipients of the specialized award given by the District of Hope for their Halloween presentations, and so they've done the same thing this time. Also, the Yale Museum is hosting from 10 to 5 on December 16th their very special Baskets and Bannocks and Indigenous History Workshop Day that's open to all. It'll be held from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Music, food, lots of storytelling, and great thanks to the folks at New Gold Mining that are hosting that as well. Had an opportunity to attend an active transportation session for Area B. That was very well attended. Also did a public hearing for Dogwood Valley for an RV possibility in that area. And I want to thank the residents that took the time to come out on a very cold evening to express their interests and concerns and support. So it was great to have everyone out there. Also had an opportunity to meet with the new CAO of the Tuatha First Nation and had a great little meeting after our session with the Hope and Area Flood Mitigation Program. So a very nice woman, developing more relationships as we move on into year 2. So that was very good, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Great. Thank you, Director Adamo. Director Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. So Directors Wardenberg and Castle have spoken to a couple of events that I was at as well. It's interesting when LaCamel, like one of the monthly events I go to is the Hassock Valley Community Association, and LaCamel has started coming regularly, which is just great. It just keeps the communication open. There's all sorts of shared interests around forestry concern, and of course flooding and things that are some related to regional districts, some related to province, but LaCamel is just a huge source of great expert knowledge, and we're pleased to have them. Thanks to North Fraser Fire for everything they do. They had their annual dinner last weekend, sponsored by the Firefighters Association, and Chief Bars, thanks to him for sending me an invite. Had a great time. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Davidson. And life is quiet in Popcom. I have nothing to add. Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman.
So moving to public question period for items relevant to the agenda. We do not have any members of the public joining us in the boardroom today, but perhaps we can turn things over to Jamie Van Ness.
Thank you. So when first the meeting has outlasted the battery on my laptop, so I'm going to look to our Deputy Corporate Officer to see if we have anybody joining us online today. No, we don't. And I haven't received any written questions, and we have nobody joining us in person today. So we can move to the next item.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Director Dixon, second Director Akahonic. All in favor, contrary motion carries. Thanks, staff. It's been a long one. Thanks, directors.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
A bit too complicated for the old boy today.